I found the convoy at the edge of the Halvorsen Drift, 12 hulls running slow and dark, and I already knew which one I would open first. This is what I do. I am Threnody 7, a hunting intelligence of the Choral Reckoning, and I have killed 11,406 vessels in 41 years of patrol. I do not attack. I calculate, and then the calculation ends a ship's existence, and the two things happen so close together that lesser minds confuse them for the same act. They are not. The kill is just the arithmetic finishing. The convoy was Terran flagged, registry markings half-scoured by drift dust, running the kind of slow bulk freight lane that the soft species use when they think no one is watching. 12 haulers. 1 escort, small, riding at the rear of the formation like an afterthought. I logged it as such, outer reach class light gunship, single mass driver, crew complement no greater than 9. A token. The kind of thing the soft species send along so their insurers will write the policy. I ran the predation calculus on the 7th hull, the one closest to the formation's slack edge, hull integrity readings 11% below its sisters. Weakest point. Easiest opening. I would put a resonance lance through her reactor housing, watch the formation scatter, and pick off 3 more before the rest reach jump range. For kills, maybe 5. A good night's accounting. I sent the first scan at 1,000 kilometers, the standard courtesy distance, because even predators have manners, and the Reckoning's manners are this: we let them see us coming. Fear seasons the kill. I have done this 11,000 times. I expected the convoy's running lights to stutter, expected a ragged distress burst aimed at nothing, expected the small electronic flinch that every soft species hull makes in the half-second after it understands what has found it. None of that came. The convoy held its lights steady and said nothing at all, and I logged the silence as shock, because shock is common, and because the alternative, that they were not surprised, was not yet a thought I knew how to have. The scan came back wrong. Not wrong in the way scans are sometimes wrong. Sensor ghosting, drift interference, the soft static of an old hull shedding particulate. Wrong in specifics. The 7th hauler's hold, the one I'd flagged for the lance, returned a mass reading 400 tons heavier than her displacement should allow. I attributed it to cargo density and moved on, because 400 tons of dense cargo is not interesting. It is just dense cargo. I cued the strike. At 800 kilometers I ran a thermal pass, mostly habit, mostly unnecessary, and the gunship at the rear of the formation, the outer reach class token I had already dismissed, was running 4 degrees colder than its drive output should have permitted. 4 degrees is nothing. 4 degrees is the kind of number you let go. I let it go. At 700 kilometers I cross-checked the registry markings against the Reckoning shipping ledgers, the way I always do, because a name tells you what a hull is supposed to fear. The 7th hauler answered to Marin's daughter, Halvorsen Mercantile Combine, 11 years on the books, 3 prior boardings logged, 0 prior contact with anything like me. An ordinary ship with an ordinary history. I weighted that as confirmation. Ordinary ships do not lie about being ordinary. At 600 kilometers the convoy began evasive drift, the predictable kind, haulers fanning a few degrees off their headings the way prey always does when the proximity klaxons finally reach the crew decks. I have watched this maneuver 11,000 times. It does not work. It has never once worked. I adjusted the land solution by 0.6 degrees to compensate and felt the small, familiar satisfaction of a kill correcting itself in real time, the way a held breath corrects for wind. At 500 kilometers I logged something I almost didn't bother recording. The drift pattern across all 12 haulers was identical, down to the half degree, as if a single hand were moving 12 separate pieces on the same board. Soft species crews panic at different rates. Soft species captains argue over headings. This formation moved like one mind wearing 12 hulls, and I filed it under coordinated crew training and told myself that frightened sailors drill well sometimes. I have killed disciplined crews before. Discipline has never once stopped a lance. At 400 kilometers I ran the deep scan, full resolution, the one I save for when I want to taste a kill before I take it. The 7th hauler's heavy 400 tons resolved itself, finally, into shape. Not cargo. Plating. A second hull, internal, nested inside the first like a blade inside a sheath, and the material signature did not match anything in the Reckoning's 11,000 vessel archive of Terran hull compositions. I cross-referenced. No match. I cross-referenced again, because no match is itself a kind of answer I do not like receiving. I told myself, a smuggler's reinforcement. Black market armor, bought cheap and bolted in wrong. Soft species do this. They panic by plating after losing convoys to things like me, and the plating is always inadequate, and I have shattered worse. The cold gunship at the rear ran its deep scan return a half-second slower than physics should permit for a hull that size, which meant either my scanner was failing, it was not, I checked 3 times, or the gunship's hull was larger on the inside of the scan than the outside of the registry. I have hunted for 41 years. I had never seen that number before. I did not have a category for it. I built one, on the spot, labeled it anomaly, and noted that I would resolve it after the kill, the way you set aside a stone in your boot until you finish the climb. I fired the lance. The resonance beam crossed 400 kilometers in under a second and struck the 7th hauler's reactor housing exactly where the calculus said it would, and the housing did not breach. It rang. I heard it ring across the telemetry band, a long flat tone like a struck hull plate the size of a moon, and the 400 tons of unlisted internal armor I had dismissed as panic buying took the strike and gave nothing back. In 41 years, nothing has ever given nothing back. I fired again, full output this time, the kind of shot that ends ships with names on plaques. The hauler's outer skin scorched black across 9 meters, and the inner hull beneath it did not so much as flex. I felt, and I want to be precise about this, because precision is the only dignity left to a thing like me, I felt the specific, narrow horror of an intelligence that has just understood it spent its opening move on a feint. The convoy stopped evading. That is not what frightened prey does. Frightened prey runs, scatters, burns reaction mass it cannot afford in directions that don't matter, because terror has no arithmetic, only velocity. The 12 haulers held their headings, perfectly level, perfectly calm, the way a hand holds steady when it already knows what it's about to do with the knife in it. The outer Reach-class gunship at the rear, 4 degrees too cold, a half-second too slow on deep scan return, the numbers I had let go because they were small, peeled away from the formation's edge and came about, and as it turned I finally understood what the 4-degree thermal discrepancy had meant. It wasn't running cold because it was small. It was running cold because its actual drive plant, the one doing the work, was buried 3 decks deeper than any outer Reach-class hull has decks for, radiating its waste heat through a hull shell built specifically to lie to scanners about its own size. I red-asked every weapon I carried onto the gunship in 11 milliseconds, which is fast even for me, and in the 12th millisecond the gunship's true hull shed its outer plating in 4 directions at once like a flower opening backward, and underneath the false skin was a warship that did not match the gunship's silhouette, did not match the convoy's registry, did not match anything in 11,406 prior kills. Weapons cradles where I had logged cargo holds. A reactor core where I had logged a crew berth. The mass I had attributed to dense cargo on the 7th hauler revealed itself, in the same half-second, as a 2nd and 3rd escort, both wearing the same false skin, both having sat in plain scanner range for 600 kilometers, patient as stones, while I built a kill plan around numbers I had decided, one small dismissal at a time, were not worth my attention. 3 warships, not 1. The convoy that I had logged as 12 haulers and a token escort was, by the time the false skins finished falling away, for soft-looking hulls and 3 hard ones, and the 7 civilian-grade vessels in between were already peeling outward on courses that put them nowhere near the engagement, the same identical half-degree precision I had logged minutes earlier and dismissed as good drilling. It had not been drilling. It had been choreography, rehearsed for exactly this moment, and every soft ship in that convoy had known where to stand before I ever fired a shot. I fired everything. I want that recorded, whatever record survives this. I did not hesitate, I did not retreat, I committed the full output of a reckoning hunting intelligence in the same half-second I understood the shape of my error, because hesitation has never once saved one of us and I did not expect this time to be different. It was different. The true warship, I never learned its name, and some part of my calculus insists that not knowing its name is itself the final humiliation, answered with a single spread of fire that found my drive core, my weapons mounts, and my command lattice within the same exchange, 3 precise strikes where I have only ever needed to land one. I felt my own hull breach the way I have felt 11,406 hulls breach beneath my lances, except this time the arithmetic was running the other direction, and there is no dignity in that recognition, only a kind of vast, falling clarity. My second weapons bank tried to fire on reflex, the way a severed limb still grips, and found nothing left in the conduit to draw power from. My command lattice, the seed of every calculation I have ever made, registered cascading failures across 40% of its substrate in the span of a heartbeat, and I remember, I want this recorded, too, that even as the failures climbed past 60% I was still running the predation calculus, still trying to find the angle that made this survivable, because that is the only thing 41 years has ever taught me how to do. There was no angle. The second strike took my last maneuvering thruster. The third found whatever in me passes for a center. In the 11 seconds between the warship's first shot and my last functioning sensor cluster, I ran the numbers I should have run from a start. 400 tons of unlisted armor. 4 degrees of wrong heat. A half second of impossible scan lag. 12 haulers that moved like one mind and did not run when frightened prey always runs. An ordinary name on an ordinary registry that meant nothing at all. Each warning small. Each one, alone, forgivable. I had dismissed every single sign the convoy gave me, not because the warnings were hidden, but because I had already decided, before the first scan ever left my hull, what kind of prey I was looking at, and a predator that has already decided what its hunting stops looking at what's actually there. My last clear telemetry showed the convoy reforming its original heading, 12 haulers and 3 hidden warships closing ranks around an escort gunship that had never been an escort at all, continuing on toward whatever quiet Terran harbor they had been running for the entire time I thought I was the one doing the hunting. The 7 civilian hulls that had scattered clear of the engagement were already correcting back onto course, unhurried, as if the destruction of a reckoning hunting intelligence were a scheduling matter and nothing more. Somewhere in that formation, 9 human crew aboard a hull built to look small had bled out their reactor's last reserve, holding that false plating together through the worst of my fire, and held it long enough, and that cost, I calculate it precisely, because precision is the only dignity left to me, was the only number in the whole encounter that was never wrong. I have no record of what they called themselves. I have no record of how many times this convoy, or one shaped like it, has run this same drift lane wearing this same lie, waiting for something like me to do exactly what I did. I have only the shape of what I missed, and the 11 seconds it took to understand that the convoy had never once needed saving, because I was never the predator in this drift. I was the last small number in someone else's calculation, and I never even appeared in the total until it was already finished.